welcome. We are the Aussie Heroes. Hey, Jay, and I just woke G up. And G, how are you, G?
Yeah, good, mate. Good. You sounded a little bit watery. You okay there? Speaking to the microphone. This is
all right.
It's a new thing for you.
I sounded watery. That's interesting. And we continue our team preview series. I'm just going to get straight into it because I just don't want to leave this guy hanging. But we enjoy talking to Dell very much. I don't know if we did this last year, Dell, but last year. What can we say about last year? But Dell Reed, Bills Mafia, 26 shirts? 26? Did I get the number right? Yes. 26 shirts. Bills mega fan. It's fantastic to have you on, Dell. Thanks for taking the time.
Thanks for having me. I always look forward to this. This is got to be my 4th or 5th August or July that I've spoken with you guys.
No, yeah. It's great. And mate, talking about the 26 t-shirts, because I get on there every now and then and just have a look what's going, what you guys are into. And the 28-3 loss that we had to the Patriots, I have a feeling that I wish it was the Bills, because at least then you have like a T-shirt that had something to do with the Falcons, so I could actually go out and buy one.
So funny story about your Falcons. So I was on vacation during that Super Bowl in Disney World with my family. I had my father-in-law and mother-in-law with us as well too. And it's the Super Bowl is that night. And I told my wife, listen, I'm going back to the hotel. I have to watch the game. She's like, really? I'm like, hello, who are you married to? Of course. Yeah. My father-in-law, of course, was like, yeah, I'm going too. We're watching the game. So we go to the game, or we go to the hotel. We're watching the game, and halfway through, I'm like, this is the best decision I've ever made in my life. I mean, this is great. And I remember Twitter was such a love fest for people that hated the Patriots that night too. It was just had my laptop open. I was on TweetDeck. I was talking to everybody I could, it was a big love-in. And then, what happened?
Yeah, I do know what happened.
As the Falcons are collapsing, my wife starts sending me all these photos from Hollywood Studios in Disney, where they were meeting all these different Star Wars characters. I'm a big nerd. If anybody follows me on Twitter, they know Star Wars and Marvel and all that. And she said to me, oh, here's the kids meeting Kylo Ren here. And as this is happening, I'm watching Tom Brady and the Patriots come back from that 28-3 loss. And by the end of that game, I hated the Falcons more than I hate the Patriots. And that says a lot as a Bills fan. So all that to say, I actually had one shirt made because I think the Bills played the Falcons the next year, if I'm right. And I had a shirt made that said it's something it's just one off. It said something like never forget that the Falcons blew a 28-3 lead. I think I donated it at some point. So I don't have it anymore, but I actually had a shirt made. I was livid with the Falcons for several years. I'm sure.
Hey, but we have another gentleman jumps on with us every now and then, Ben Haller, and he was wearing a cap. He's a Vikings fan, and he's wearing a cap. What do you remember? What cap he was wearing from the other division, from the other conference? I can't remember. And he says
Chiefs cap.
It's a Chiefs cap, right? Yeah. And AJ's likes the Raiders, so they said what you need to have a team in the AFC, and you got to follow a team in the NFC. So I already have an NFC team, obviously. And I was sitting there, and this is a true story. This is only about 3 or 4 weeks ago. And I said, you know what? The Bills are going to be my AFC team.
Welcome aboard. Welcome aboard.
Without a word of a lie. So the red, white, and blue, I like the uniforms. Big fan of Josh Allen, even though all you guys hated him the first couple of years, but I was still on board. I love the grass you have down there, mate. It's the greenest, beautiful grass that I've seen in the stadium. It almost looks like it's not real. It's that good.
The grass in the stadium is not real, but
yes.
It's funny that it's the choices that people make who aren't associated with the team or the area It's funny the choices that people make to become fans of certain teams. I remember Pancho Villa, who is the most visible, God rest his soul, most visible Bills fan maybe in this century ever. Maybe he was from Texas, and he chose the Bills when he was a little boy because they had the colors most similar to the Mexican flag, which is red, white, and green. So red, white, and so it's funny how people kind of make these decisions in terms of like, that's gonna be my team. So that's interesting. Yeah, good timing on your part with Josh Allen and the Bills being better than they've been in some people's lives.
Mate, I'm jumping on this train while it's moving forward. I'll be dragging one foot just in case I have to jump off really quick.
Oh, no, that's not how it works, brother. That's not how it works. We have to let them talk offline.
I just want to get a bloody buy a T-shirt, so I figured I'll go to the Bills. I'll take it.
Well, look,
and any fan base that throws people on top of tables, jumps off the top, 20 foot, and turns up to games in, mate, Arctic conditions.
Oh yeah.
Mate, gotta have to
I'll never understand that. I don't begrudge anybody how they want to get pumped for a game, but I will never understand the desire to put myself or someone else through a $50 piece of plastic table that you have to replace.
It looks worse when the table doesn't break.
I've seen a few of those on social media. Yeah, I've seen a few of those.
No, the table collapsing sort of cushions the fall.
I think so. I think that's part of the engineering of it all.
Yes. Hey, Jay, so we better get on to asking some questions about this.
Well, let's just as
Bills,
a quick intro. That's right. Just as a quick intro, Del. I mean, Bills are looking good, and you've got to say that obviously Patriots are not sort of a team to worry about. Particularly, it seems like the exit of Tom Brady has been a bigger thing than we thought. But it's fair to say the Bills have got a window, and they've got it. But they're young. I'm not saying it's like a small window, but they've got a window. And I mean, at the end of the day, we've got to measure this by a return to the Super Bowl. That's what we're ultimately going to measure it by. But 13-3 last year, playoffs 4 out of the last 5 years. So, I mean, looking fantastic. Let's just start with free agency. I don't know how I felt about it. They weren't like incredibly active in free agency. I just wrote down a few names. Mitch Trubisky, whatever. Manny Sanders, Matt Breida, Levi Wallace, you re-signed. Matt Milano, obviously big contract. He's a pretty handy player, important player. Darrell Williams, likewise. Terrell Adams, who you got from Texans, I think.
Houston.
Linebacker. Yep. Feliciano, who you retained. Jacob Hollister from the Seahawks. I mean, tight end might be, we'll get to that, but that might be a position which is a bit sort of but I mean, overall, apart from kind of taking care of your own guys, I guess, they weren't sort of incredibly active in free agency, but, it wasn't sort of bad.
Yeah, I think that retaining the guys they did was one of the more important, actions for free agency for the Bills this year. I mean, the team had an opportunity to really go a completely different direction, arguably a worse direction, had they not brought back players like Matt Milano and such. So that was huge. Isaiah McKenzie, a gadget player on the offense, but still made his presence felt last year. Big part of a lot of the scheme that they're running in terms of some of the gadget plays and everything, which sounds bad to say that, like gadget, like it's not needed, but it was a big part of the offense last year. So it was great too. What was really encouraging as a Bills fan, because for so long it always felt like the team had to overpay to bring players in, because who wants to play in Buffalo was always kind of the thought process. Now you have stories where Matt Milano tells his agent, "I don't care, just get it done. I want to be in Buffalo." And Isaiah McKenzie saying in public that he would have played for Candy if it meant he could come back and play for the Bills this season. And then with basically the replacement of John Brown with Emmanuel Sanders. it's encouraging because, you know, there's a lot of people that know a lot more about football than I do that I listen to, you know, often. Joe Marino from Locked On Bills, that podcast is one that I you know, he's probably the number one listen I have overall with these Bills podcasts. He was very high on the Sanders signing, called him a much more much better route runner than John Brown, who is more straight ahead speed. And while Sanders may not have the speed that John Brown has, he brings a lot more to the table in terms of skill set. So the offense is, you know, arguably better than it was last year on paper. And the defense, especially when you look at the direction they went in the draft, which I know we're talking about free agency, but the direction they went in the draft with Greg Rousseau and Carlos Basham is huge in terms of the pass rush and getting after quarterbacks like Patrick Mahomes. So it was a very productive offseason. The team is not in this portion now of its life cycle where they're trying to build it. So all these signings are coming through like, oh my gosh, this guy, now they have this guy, they just drafted this guy. So now it's like, we have all these guys, let's keep them around and let's, you know, supplement and augment where we can.
Well, yeah. You were saying like with Isaiah McKenzie and guys that, you know, and Malone, just get it done. I want to stay there and I'll play for peanuts. That's because people see a team, the trajectory is pointing directly up. You know, because you're not going to Buffalo for the weather, the beaches, or anything like that. Oh, yeah. But that's a great thing is when you know your team is on, when people want to stay there because they want to be part of something great.
Yeah, I mean, Sanders has said multiple times he came to Buffalo to win a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And so obviously that's music to my ears as a Bills fan to get to experience that glory. So yeah, let's go. I'm ready. Let's do it. So, but you know, Buffalo gets a knock with the weather, but it's really a few bad months. And we've had a couple of mild winters over the years recently. We get a bad knock, but I tell you what, September, October, into November, it's not so bad. December, January, it's really dicey. But
listen, Del, you know, with what we're doing to the environment, you'll have California weather soon. All sorted. Don't worry.
Oh man, we've had a couple of hot summers recently too. So unfortunately, I think you may be on the correct path there.
Yeah. But you did talk about the draft, and interestingly, your first 4 picks in the draft on the lines, both on each line, and kind of interestingly. Surprising. I mean, Sean McDermott, you know, maybe showing his origins a little bit, but Rousseau in the first and then Basham in the second, already adding to a D line that, you know, you've got Jerry Hughes and Mario Addison. I mean, they're getting long in the tooth, but both extremely experienced. Ed Oliver, Latulele, Ebenezer from last year. So it's like, and I think a lot of teams do this where it's like, it's not drafting for need, but it's sort of like we're going to make a strength stronger. Like we're going to make this a huge strength of ours. And so that D line, I mean, we'll talk about it in depth later, but like, oh my goodness, the talent on there, but also planning for the future fantastically. Then in the third and the fifth, 2 tackles, Spencer Brown and Tommy Doyle. And then I started writing down picks in the 6th, and, you know, I thought, well, you know, these guys aren't as interesting, but I thought it was interesting that, you know, those first 4 were on the lines, and sometimes that's not necessarily as sexy, especially on the O-line, but, you know, we know that this is where football's won and lost.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And, you know, kudos to them for not going for the sexy, flashy picks that, you know, they want to make news in April. Those days are over for this franchise. You know, like I mentioned before, in terms of, you know, playing a quarterback like Patrick Mahomes, you have to be strong up front. And the defense was pretty good. They have the best, in my opinion, the best safety tandem in the NFL with Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer. You have one of the best corners in Trey White, and you have, as you mentioned, a defensive line that was getting a little long in the tooth. So it was good that they invested in the O-line and the D line, and the cornerback position. Levi Wallace has proven to be able to hold his own. But they're going to keep. He's an undrafted free agent from a few years ago. Every year they're going to bring in another corner to challenge him. That's just going to be his career. And so I think that was probably the most important investment they could make in the defense was being as strong as possible up front, because they are, like, I forgot to mention the linebackers, obviously, with Matt Milano and Tremaine Edmonds. And obviously with the O-line, everybody knows you give the best quarterback in the world. If he doesn't have time to throw, then it doesn't mean a hill of beans. So I think that's great that they're going to continue to invest in, up front every year, it looks like.
Yeah. Speaking of the quarterback, G.
Oof. Yeah. Here we go. Now I'll tell you another story. My son's best mate is a Patriots fan, his family, and up until COVID hit, every year they'd go back to watch the first game, a home game for the Patriots, which, lucky for some. Yeah, lucky for some. And they actually went, last time they were there, they also went to a Bills game up in Buffalo. And he came back and said, this would have been possibly his rookie year. And, mate, they sat in the stands and just listened to what everybody was saying about Josh Allen and just, my God, I can't believe we picked this guy. What a waste of time. That's probably coming from a Patriots fan, so it's probably not all true. But it's quite interesting.
It's not all true.
It's not. But the leap forward this year was like a light step. It really was across the board. Every stat was in the positives, and all the stats that you want to be negative were in the negative. And they weren't small steps forward. They were giant leaps from 2019, 2018, 2019, and 2020 was just blew everything away. So his attempts went up by 111, probably getting more acclimated to the whole NFL system and then trusting him more. His yards went up by 1,400 and some change. TDs went up by 17. Interceptions down by 1.7. His QBR rating went from 49 to 81.
That's good, right?
Yes.
I think that's good.
I don't know what it means, but it's positive.
I don't know.
The higher the number, the better. But I don't know. It's ESPN stats. I have no idea what it means. And he most importantly, which is one of the things that people probably had a few concerns about Josh Allen, was his accuracy. But his accuracy increased as well last year, which was great. So I think it was in maybe the 70s, mid 70s. So I suppose the other 25 were drop balls. That's the way he's going to look at it. But so what aspect do you see as a Bills fan and someone who follows the team? So as you do, what's the next transformation you see that he has to make another step forward? Because you always have to move forward.
Yeah, it's a great question. He really was what felt like the whole package last year. And it was so great. Just speaking like to the number of attempts, you said 111 more or whatever it was. This team for so long its calling card used to be that they were the best rushing attack in the NFL. They had the most rushing yards of any team in the NFL. And when you see that stat at the end of the season, you're like, cool. The reason you have the most yards is because nobody else is running the ball as much as you are. And this past season was just crazy. There was one game like late in the season. I'm old now, so they all kind of blur together. But I don't know if it was leading up to the playoffs or in the playoffs. There was a game where I think they ran the ball twice the entire first half, and that game was a win. Just throwing on. I never thought in all my years at this point now I'd ever see the Bills throw a pass on first down, and especially not consecutive first downs. And for them to be such a pass first attack, it was such a breath of fresh air. Probably for every Bills fan, just because we want to see what we see on Monday Night Football with Aaron Rodgers and even Tom Brady. All the great quarterbacks are out there on display, and we're sitting there handing the ball off for 3 yards in a cloud of dust. So it was awesome to see that leap last year. Not even with just Josh, but with the offense in general, trusting him to make those plays. Now, in terms of what it would mean, like his next step, honestly, not regressing, I feel like would be a positive step forward. To be honest with you, because how often do you see a quarterback have a dynamite year and then like kind of regress the next year. And he never quite has the same year that he had that one year. And now everybody drafts him early in their fantasy drafts. And he's gonna be better. He's gonna be better than he was last year because he had that one year. I mean, there's very few players that are able to do that. I think of players like, again, I'm gonna go back to Aaron Rodgers and his whole crazy situation right now, but and Tom Brady. But I think that would be fantastic if he could do that. And maybe playing a little bit better on the road, the team as a whole. I think that towards the end of I guess that Kansas City game, there was a lot. I mean, the whole team could have just played better, including the coaching too. So there was a lot of bad taste in Bills fans' mouths after that Chiefs game. But you want to think they're going to learn from it. They're going to do better in the future, and definitely the future is so bright for Josh Allen and the rest of the Buffalo Bills.
Well, are the Bills fans and the coaching staff have the same sort of aspirations for Josh Allen, what he's going to do in 2021? Or do you think the Bills coaching staff might be a little bit more just keep it where it is, just keep, like you said, just keep it, don't regress, and the Bills fans are going, no, we want to see more of everything. We want more touchdowns. Is that just a fan base?
Well, I don't know where the team's perspective is, but I mean, I'll tell you, I can speak for me. I can't speak for all fans. I want to see more touchdowns. I want to see this explosive offense. I want to see it just continue to grow and just keep up what they've started and prove that last year was not an anomaly. It's really encouraging too because a lot of the credit, as I understand it, for Josh Allen's steps forward last year were his time spent with Jordan Palmer, who is a quarterback guru, brother of Carson Palmer. And he spent, every offseason with Jordan working on his game. And just like last week or 2 weeks ago, there was a video of Josh back out there with Jordan working on his game. And you see that and you're like, Jordan fixed so many of his mechanics and everything else, those first 2 years of his career. Like, what's he working on now? I mean, there's always room for improvement. So it's really exciting. And I mean, Bills fan, I will speak for Bills fans when I say this. We are so high on Josh Allen. The expectations are through the roof. You don't see any, like you mentioned before, like, oh, everybody in the stands was complaining. I guarantee not everybody was complaining his rookie year, but
just getting you fired up, mate. Just getting you warmed up. That's all I was doing.
But all the draft gurus, I don't watch tons of college football. Certainly not Wyoming football, and so all the draft gurus leading up to the 2018 draft were telling us like this is not the guy. Completion, blah 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 blah, percentage, all that, accuracy. And so when they drafted him, like, I'm not gonna lie, there was hesitation. Like, oh my gosh, all I've heard is negatives, except for Mel Kiper. Leading up to this pick. All right, let's roll with it. But so on social media, even up through like probably halfway through last year, you'd still see people tweeting about like, oh, Josh Allen, he's gonna go, it's gonna fall off now. And I'm not even using any hyperbole or exaggeration when I say this. Like, I have not seen anybody that I follow a lot of Bills fans. I have not seen anybody saying, "Oh, Josh Allen's going to drop off." Last year was a flash. Nobody is thinking that because he was so consistent last year. So Bills fans, basically found our savior, and we're ready to ride this all the way to a trophy.
And the great thing is that I was always sort of like with, like, say, a big quarterback like Cam Newton's a perfect example that continually thought that because of his size, he could do what he wanted to do. But last year, if you look at Josh Allen's numbers, everything, like he didn't run the ball as much. Mm-hmm. His yards were way down, like even as from a rookie season, like 400 yards less or something ridiculous like that, 300 yards. But that's a good sign that he feels that he doesn't have to, my read's gone, I'll just run.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it's just a development, maturity as a quarterback already.
Yeah, he's been taught by Dable, Brian Dable, the offensive coordinator, and his quarterback coaches and everything. to first, second, third read, then run. Not like, oh, my first read's not open, I'm going to run. But I got to say that rookie year, man, nobody expected – there was no story about Josh Allen that had to do with his running ability. Leading up to the draft, after that, nobody was talking about how this guy can literally gallop and hurdle defenders. Nobody was talking about that. So as he was growing, as he was learning the NFL game, that was a great asset ability that he was able to lean on and to still, help the team. And granted, they went 6-10 their his rookie season, but that was a great crutch, if you will, for the offense to continue to move the ball forward and everything. So that was great. And he's such a physical quarterback.
Yeah.
He's not one of these guys who's just going to sit back and hide in the pocket and just, throw darts. Like, this guy puts the team on his back and is going to do everything he can to score a touchdown on that drive.
Yeah, no darts coming out of that arm, mate. That's a cannon. That thing's a weapon, a serious weapon. Now, we'll talk about the O-line in front of him. But what I want to do here is a little bit different. I want to try and put the O-line and the running backs together, because I read an article today to get ready to speak to you from a guy at Buffalo Fanatics. And for someone who doesn't follow the Bills, well, I'm going to now because I've jumped on board, get a couple of free T-shirts. But he made, from someone, like I said, who doesn't follow the Bills, he made a lot of sense in his view. And it's like, with the running backs didn't look that great last year because the O-line didn't show them to be better, or is the O-line okay and the running backs aren't that great? So they run an outside zone and neither of your running backs have the pace to get to the outside. Now, that's changed this year. You went out and got Matt Breida, who's definitely got the pace if he's not injured. Mm-hmm. So how the O-line's the same. Nothing's changed. It's the same group of guys you had last year, I believe. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
how
and the running backs haven't changed. Obviously, you didn't bring anybody in except Matt Breida in free agency, but you're going to run with Zach Moss and Devin Singletary. How do you see the two blending? Because you already know that they can protect the quarterback, but now you still need a run game, and your run game was a little, I don't know, is it hit and miss? Is that fair to say? It wasn't the best part of your offense by far.
Yeah, it also wasn't leaned on very much. And that's a chicken and the egg thing. We were just talking about how the Bills were throwing, on first down, and there was the 1.5 where they ran the ball twice. So is that something because they're so confident in Josh's arm and his receivers, or is it because that they don't want to give the ball to their running backs? I think it's more the former. The addition of Matt Breida, I think, is going to be a nice change-up for the Bills' offense, having that speed. Zach Moss, he's a bruiser, and I'm looking forward to seeing from what he's able to do this season after last year was just his rookie year. So, and Devin Singletary, if you follow him on Instagram and social media, like, that dude has beefed up. Obviously there's the speed that we were talking about with the outside zone and everything, but I mean, Devin Singletary, I believe, is going to come into this offense as a different player than he was in 2020. So I'm excited to see what they're able to do. Obviously, this team's Brandon Beane, the general manager, and Sean McDermott, the coach, they want to get to the Super Bowl. They want to win the Super Bowl. And so I always say this, and as a fan, I know it kind of ruins it because we're always sitting here as fans trying to pick everything apart and be our own armchair experts and everything. But, like, these guys, as much as we want to see this team succeed, they want to see it more. Their careers are tied to this. And so that was what I always that's what I always leaned back on with Josh Allen with that draft pick. I was like, well, they must know what they're doing because they had all these other players, these other opportunities to draft other quarterbacks, and this is the guy they went with. So they must know something that we don't know, or they must have faith in their ability to make it happen or whatever. So that goes this year with the running back room. They're familiar with these guys on the roster. They know what their goals are as an offense for 2021. And so I'm willing to wait and see what happens here. But again, this is the run game is no longer the center of the Bills offense. So we'll see where it goes.
How do you see the backfield playing out? Is Zach Moss the guy? Is he going to be, because he did look better than Devin did, last season.
Well, yeah, they're different guys, different skill sets.
Yeah.
You know, different. They bring different things to the game. You know, as a layman, I don't study film. I listen to podcasts of people who study film, and they tell me what to think in a lot of these things. Just being real, each three of these running backs is a different style guy. You know, Zach is more of the tough bruiser. Breida is the speed guy, and Devin's kind of in the middle there. So I think it's going to be situational. And, you know, for fantasy football players, they hate that. They want that one bell cow running back they can just hitch their wagon to, and you know, have Emmitt Smith or Thurman Thomas or somebody just get the ball 30 times a game and they're good.
Hence why I don't draft any Bills running backs in my fantasy.
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah.
This is not, you know, when you're running a fantasy team, it's so much different than you know, how the real world operates with these players.
No, get out.
Newsflash.
Oh, mate, they should be asking us questions about how to run the
Blowing
offense.
people's minds on this podcast right now.
All right, so let's move across to we'll put the tight ends and the wide receivers all in the same basket because they all catch balls. Except like probably some guys probably try and block a bit more. We'd like them to block on the edges. But getting Stefan Diggs, that's probably another reason you saw the uptick for Josh Allen as well. Having a receiver like that, you know, really does help. So I actually had him in a pod we did the other week. I had him could possibly be the number one wide receiver in the NFL. He's number three last year. It's not that far away from, with all the other stuff that's going on with Aaron Rodgers and that team. There's I can't remember who else was in front of him, but a really good chance.
Maybe Devontae Adams. I think he might have been in there.
Yeah, Devontae Adams. Yeah. So you have him. You've got the second year Gabriel Davis, who I'm a fan of. He's as a rookie, so he had good games. He had quiet games, but you saw as the year went on, if you look at his target share, it not that it crept up, but it stayed more consistent. Like he had more targets coming, especially like across maybe the last 6 games or so. So him acclimating to the NFL, the whole NFL system, playbook, whatever. As we spoke about, you went out and got Emmanuel Sanders, who, mate, still got it. If you go and look at the New Orleans games last year when there was no Michael Thomas, mate, the dude stepped up. The guy's just smart. He doesn't need the speed. He's just smart. He just knows where to run. Still a great route runner. Then you've got, well, mate, God's clown, and who knows what's happening with Cole Beasley, whether or not he's going to play. You could probably fill us in a bit more about that with everything with the vaccination. Then you've got a guy that I'm a big fan of, which I reckon was a 6th-round steal last year in Isaiah Hodgson. I reckon this guy could make another step. And just, is he going to be like, I was going to say, could he not be a number 2 guy? But, mate, the dude's got some skill. So I think getting him in the 6th round was a really good pick. And he had a good start in OTAs. He looked really good.
Yeah.
And then the tight ends, Dawson Knox, you get Jacob Hollister from Seattle. Tommy Sweeney is probably the part of your offense is probably lacking in the receiving department. Like I feel you could really do if you had a tight end, like even a top 12 tight end, mate, your offense would just look so much crisper.
You know, we're talking about the running game here and the passing game, and it's funny because they traded Lee Smith to your Falcons, and he was much more of a blocking tight end. And if you go 1-for-1, they replaced him with Jacob Hollister, who's more of a pass-catching tight end. So here we are talking about the running game, and one of the facets of the running game, blocking, which is kind of a big deal. They're one of the better blocking tight ends in the league. They shipped out and they replaced him with a guy who catches passes. So just to touch on that point from a few minutes ago, I think that's another indication of what they're looking to do with this offense this year. But yeah, I mean, it is a crowded wide receiver room or target room, however you want to call it, with tight ends. There's only one ball to go around, and there's a lot of great receivers. You look at when the Bills made the playoffs in 2017 with Tyrod Taylor and the receiving group that he had, to throw the ball to, and the receiving group that Josh Allen has now is just, it's not even the same universe. And it's going to be interesting to see, because this, you talk about Hodgins and some of the players on the back end. It's going to be tough for them to even get time when you look at it. And in terms of Cole Beasley, I'm not sure what's going on there. He's obviously got some personal grievances about vaccination and everything, but I think that he's a beloved member of the locker room, and I think that is a very tight locker room. What we see play out on Twitter and social media is not the real world, and I don't think that there's the kind of division in the locker room that we're kind of projecting onto these guys based on the tweets that we see. But you look just at all the dudes on offense that Josh Allen can throw the ball to, and there's a lot of talent there.
I'm just looking at 2017 now that you brought it up. Jordan Matthews, Zay Jones, Andre Holmes, Tate Brandon. Like the only one I think.
Yeah, Brandon Tate
Zay Jones
Kelvin
is the only
Benjamin.
one still in the league. He took it in the second round.
Yeah, right.
Good
yeah,
pick.
the flashy move for 2017 was trading for Kelvin Benjamin. That was the flashy, trade deadline move. And now, last I checked, he was trying out as tight end for different teams. So, so I mean, that speaks to Tyrod as much as it does anybody else. Just how he was able to lead that team to the playoffs that year. And so it's just a completely different type of offense now that the Bills have, as opposed to that first year playoff team.
How did it feel from a Bills to get someone like Stefon Diggs, and then he comes with, well, this guy's good, and then he goes and produces what you it's sort of, you expected to do it, but it was more than what people expected.
Yeah, it was. I mean, there have been rumors of the Bills trying to get Diggs for over a year by the time they actually traded for him, and it's surreal. It's kind of like when they traded for LaShawn McCoy in 2015. Just like you see this guy on the field playing, and you're like, this is another tier of football player that is playing for the Bills. LaShawn McCoy, probably the best running back that the Bills had since Thurman Thomas, on the roster. Just insane watching him play the years that he was here. And Stefon Diggs, I mean, probably the best receiver that the Bills have had since Eric Moulds. And, there's people that probably fight me on saying that and saying he's the best since Andre Reed. So just a whole nother level of talent that we're not used to seeing. The guy's amazing. And what's amazing too is, like, don't forget, like, they acquired him during a pandemic. They acquired him during a not so typical NFL offseason where he didn't get as much time to meld with his quarterback and just gel with the offense. And can you imagine what it's going to be like now as they kick off training camp this week and they're able to really dig in like they weren't able to last year with all the different protocols, and having this year of experience with each other, Josh and Stefon, is just it's hard not to daydream about like the possibilities.
Yeah, hands above the table, mate. but you are, because now you've got a receiver that gets open in his sleep, basically. And now he doesn't need that much to get open, and you got a guy with a cannon that gets the ball there quicker than anybody else in the NFL. So it's a perfect match, isn't it? Really? Yeah,
it's amazing. It really is the new Kelly to Reed that we have had for like I said, longer than some people have been alive who are Bills fans, who are adults. So it's nice it's something to look forward to for sure. It's nice to be able to depend on that as a fan every week, knowing that there's a pretty good chance that the offense is going to light it up this week.
And just quickly touch on Gabriel Davis. Some people are in on Gabriel Davis, some people aren't. I really liked him coming out.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a huge college football expert, but I remember when the Bills drafted him, lots of people who are fans of UCF where he came from, just how much the fans at UCF love this guy. So he obviously made an impact on them with his play.
Yeah.
And so for him to come in and do as well as he did, and again, there's only one ball to go around. So for him to have the impact he had on the offense, it's exciting. And it's nice that, Stephon Diggs is great. And Cole Beasley is great. Emmanuel Sanders is great. It's also great that Brandon Beane is bringing in young talent that is beginning their career with Buffalo. So it's encouraging to see that he doesn't have to just see what other teams have been able to do and then try and cherry pick them and pay a premium for them. But instead, he's also able to draft these guys that can actually make a difference themselves, like right out of the gate.
So before I move on to the defense with AJ, Cole Beasley, Emmanuel Sanders. How does that work in the offense? Like you got, I'm a fan of Cole Beasley. Anybody that plays in that position and gets creamed every time you catch the ball, basically, earns my respect. And now you've got two guys that can work on the short to intermediate sort of, and both good route runners. And surprisingly, one's white with red hair. Like that, go figure.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how they line him up. Cole Beasley's, one of the best slot receivers in the NFL.
Great year last year.
What's that?
He had a great year last year.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it was a career year for him. And so you look at that, and then you look at Sanders and what he brings to the table, his route running ability. It's going to be fun to see how they lined up. Because in our mind, at least my mind, I always think of it like, oh, this player's going to be here, this player's going to be here, and this player's going to be here, and that's how they're going to line up. They change it all the time. There's motion and all the different things they do. And like the defense, before I was talking about like the corners and the linebackers, their primary defense really is nickel. So you often have that additional corner, on the field anyways. So, so often, like, at least for myself, like I kind of take this fantasy football mindset where like the players are this slot, this slot, this slot, this slot, but it's so fluid in the real world and what they're able to do.
Yeah, without doubt. AJ, take it away on D.
Well, we sort of spoke a little bit about the D line before. One of the things that I'm just going to lump it all in together because, this defense looks fantastic, and
obviously AJ's done no research. That's why he just lumps them all in together.
No.
Oh, okay.
I definitely have. The Matt Milano signing was really key. I think if they didn't re-sign him, that would have been problematic. But that piece. So we spoke about the D line and the depth you've got, and the fact that you do have these older, really experienced, fantastic players like Hughes and Addison, who maybe won't be playing in 22, but then you've got the guys you drafted, obviously Russo and Basham. And Ebenezer from last year, and Ed Oliver and Latulele. So that D-line is incredibly deep. And then in the middle, obviously, Tremaine Edmonds, Matt Milano, and adding a few guys who just kind of support them. Terrell Adams last year played really well. I'm trying to remember who he kind of spelled. Maybe it was Whitney Merciless. There was someone who went down in that Texans D, and Terrell Adams, I think, played as a starter basically, I think almost the whole year, and was great. So he's a really nice addition, really, in terms of depth. And then obviously in the backfield, wow, the defensive backfield is fantastic. You mentioned Trey White, Levi Wallace, who does fine. But Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer, who just I don't know that Jordan Poyer really gets the props he deserves, really.
But you're right there. You're right there. For as good as Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer are, you don't hear much about them on the national stage.
No. So that the defense, when I actually just wrote the names down and just looked at it from front to back, I thought, man, the defense looks fantastic on paper. It really does. Like it should be one of the best defenses in the league, effectively.
Yeah, from your lips to God's ears.
What do you think where do you think the holes are? I don't see many, but what are your concerns?
Yeah, I mean, Star Lotulelei not playing last season, effectively moving Ed Oliver out of position, and having him having to play his whole second year in the NFL, in not exactly what he is, set up to do with his skill set. If Star can come back at the the level of play that he was before he took the pass on 2020, I think that's going to be huge. And the cornerback 2 position is something that Levi Wallace, like I said, they're going to bring somebody in to challenge him every year. If that position can stay solid, then I mean this defense is going to be pretty good. I'm looking forward to it. A lot of people had complaints with Milano and Edmonds last season, but they were both playing hurt for a large portion. I feel like people forget that. They both got dinged like very early in the season, and so you have these people like complaining about Edmonds, and it's like, guys, he's playing banged up, and I think people forget that the people that are playing these games that we're watching are people. We're dealing with pain, and even like if an injured Tremaine Edmonds maybe is better than the next guy up on the roster, he's still not as good as the healthy Tremaine Edmonds. And I think often as fans we forget that. We think of them just as when we're playing Madden and the guy's little injury bar is high enough where he's fine. It's like, that's not really how it works. Like how many times do you have a hard time like getting up out of your chair? You're like, oh my gosh, these guys are playing NFL football, so I'm not too concerned about the linebacking for this defense. So in terms of holes, I mean, I think there are areas of concern. I mean, just CB2 being able to pull its weight, and can the defensive line get back to the level that we were used to seeing with Star in there, because Star doesn't get a lot of stats, like sexy stats, but that dude eats up a lot of offensive linemen.
Yeah, I mean, what you say about Edmonds is obviously very, very true. If there's any criticism I could make, it's that maybe Edmonds hasn't quite reached the heights we thought he would. But I mean, maybe he'll take a bit of a step this year with health. And you could almost say the same with Ed Oliver. I think there's a guy who's got, potential plus as well, which you haven't quite seen.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, like I said, Oliver was playing out of his natural position last year because they didn't have, Star there. And then people forget Tremaine Edmonds is 23 years old. I mean, people in Buffalo don't forget because it comes up in every conversation when you have about the guy. But he's 23 years old, and I'm pretty sure they drafted guys this season, this past April, who are older than Tremaine Edmonds, who has been on the team since 2018. That's insane to me. And so, you talk about these rookies, and when they get drafted, they have to grow into their bodies, and they have to really that dude is still growing into his body, or he's just at the end of that now. I really feel like the ceiling is still very high for him.
Man, he's probably age-wise, he's still 3-4 years off until he's in his adult, mature body. Like they say, for guys, it's around, like sporting-wise, it's 26, 27.
Mm-hmm.
So
he's 23.
23.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he's 23. So that's insane. That's crazy. I don't know what accelerated program he was on in college to get drafted that young, but it's just crazy.
And he always seemed a bit, I remember he always seemed a little bit, he was always raw. I think he was a bit raw coming out. And he always sort of seemed like he needed to kind of grow into his body a bit, He's sort of, he's not your prototypical linebacker necessarily.
No. And what's crazy, we were talking about how he has to grow into his body. The dude's 6'5".
Yeah. And it's when you watch the game and you see him standing in the middle, it's just like, the dude's like his quarterback size. You know what I mean? He's got to build like watching Josh Allen stand in the middle linebacker. You don't expect someone to be that big. Or it's like watching Derrick Henry when he was playing high school football. Like, he's just so much bigger than everybody else at the position. Yeah,
it's wild. So Josh is also 6'5", and according to the listings, I think Tremaine's got like maybe 15 pounds on him, and that's it.
Yeah.
I say that like my son's into basketball, and not getting off the subject, and I see how big basketball players are. I said, Matt, I just want to see these people in real life. Because you watch them on TV, it's like watching basketball, you watch football, but they're surrounded by people of the same size, so they all look normal. Do you know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
But
Yeah.
I sit at home and just look at my front door, just going, those bastards couldn't fit through my front door. Do you know what I mean? You want to see these people just to get.
It's like a different kind of human. It's crazy. Like even with the Olympics, I follow somebody on Twitter who he says that every 4 years or whatever, I just want to see so you can understand how good these athletes are as they're swimming across the pool. I want to have like an average swimmer swim as well, so you can see how far ahead. Because you're like, oh, so and so they're no good. Look at that other person like so far ahead of them. Then you want to have like a normal person like swimming, like the person's not even done with their first length, and the Olympic swimmers are on like the third lap or whatever.
Did we have that one year? What was it, Eddie the Eel? With that guy from some African country. Remember him?
I do
remember. He was like useless. Like I think everybody was up in the they were doing the medal presentation. He's just touching the wall at the end. It's like, so it gave him and he's from a quick enough time to get to the Olympics. So and he still got slaughtered. So, hey, can I just ask you about defense? Like AJ Epinesa, like was hurt for most of last year. How does I believe that's right. That's right, wasn't he? I think it was a fair bit of last year.
I know the story on him is that he had to put on some more weight for this season, but
I'm just wondering where he goes because he was taken quite high.
Yeah, he was their first pick
last year.
Last year. I mean, they didn't have a first round pick, but he was the first player selected.
So now you've got him. You've got Greg Rousseau. You've got Basham Jr. Mate, you got a lot of pass rushes there.
It's you can see where they have been putting their energy the past couple of years, and you said it earlier, AJ, about how Sean McDermott kind of showing where he's from with the defense and everything. There's even the very first pick of his regime, they picked Trey White. It was a great pick, but it was one of those things where again at that time, 2017. Being frustrated with how much the ball was run, and we knew that we needed a quarterback eventually, and they hire this guy who's a defensive expert, and the first thing he does is draft a corner. And it's just like, will it ever end? Will it ever end? And so it worked. It all worked out, but I'm pretty sure that like most NFL head coaches who originated in defense. If they could start 22 defenders, they would love it.
Oh well, we saw what happened with in the Super Bowl last year with defense, didn't we? They shut down Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, for sure, and it's a big deal.
Yeah, without a doubt.
All right, Russo as well. I mean, this is not so much a question as just a comment. To get him at pick 30. A guy who many people rated as by all accounts, was a bit of a weaker edge class. So maybe just because it didn't have Chase Young in it, I suppose. But a bit of a weaker edge class. But Russo dropped, and I think in part because there's some sort of criticism or some sort of talk about how last year I think he opted out. I think COVID opted out, and people sort of kind of criticized him for not working out so hard during the year while he was off, all this sort of rubbish. But it's kind of weird because when you look at his play, he was dominant, and
working out outside the facility worked pretty well for Cam Akers, didn't it?
Yeah. He could be an absolute steal at pick 30.
Yeah, it's exciting to see. I mean, he had 1 year really where he broke out of Miami, but and he took last year off, and then I don't remember the criticism about him not working out this past year, but opting out, and then you hear the story about how his mom's a nurse and all that, so he was very concerned in that respect with all the information he had. So it'll be interesting to see. I think that he's a player they can bring in. He doesn't have to blow up the league his first year when you look at the players that are on the roster now, but he can learn under Jerry Hughes and and learn this defense. And it's just exciting. And then the other pick, Basham, who I know is projected as a first rounder by many. I mean, I don't think they intended to take 2 D linemen with their first 2 draft picks this year, but when it's staring you in the face, like, you don't just say no to the talent. You know, you select it. So.
Oh yeah. So
Falcons, CD Lamb. Yeah, don't let it stare in your face too hard.
Yeah, well, there's plenty to go around. G. I mean, I think the Broncos are going to live to regret not drafting Justin Fields, but the main challenger. Now that the Patriots are always going to be dangerous. I think that's a fair statement. Mm-hmm. Even with Cam under center, with Bill, as long as Bill's the head coach of that team, the head coach and manager and everything of that team, then I think they're dangerous. But I think there's lots of movement in the division. I mean, for sure. How do you see it playing out?
Well, I was going to say the window is really good for the Bills at the moment because the Patriots are where they find themselves at the moment. You have Miami, who Tua, who knows, mate? Seriously, and also with Zach Wilson in New York. So, mate, this is the time to make hay, isn't it, for the Bills over the next couple of years?
Yeah, absolutely. And nothing's guaranteed in the NFL. And this is going to be last season and this season is going to be one of the best shots they have to, grab that crown, that division crown, with as little pushback from the other teams as they're as possible, because they're only going to get better. And I make jokes a lot of times at the Jets' expense, but it seems like they have a capable head coach, and we'll see how he does as a head coach, but he's coming in with a good pedigree, not like with all the caveats that his predecessor did. And so we'll see, but they've got a young quarterback. They've got a very raw young team that still has to be built very much. So I don't think the Jets pose much of a concern. Miami, we'll see, how Tua is able to progress. They've had a lot of opportunities to improve that team over the past couple of years with the draft and everything else. I'm not too afraid of Tua at this point. We'll see, as the season progresses and as his career progresses. And then, like you mentioned, the Patriots, they'll always be the Patriots. And while it was great, like beating them up on Monday Night Football at the end of the season last year, that was probably the most cathartic win that I remember maybe ever, or at least in my adult life. And so that was great. But like you said, Bill Belichick is really great at cheating. Oh no, I'm sorry, is really good at scheming and. He's a brilliant NFL mind.
You got to scheme to cheat.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, exactly. But like he'll always be a threat, and so this is the best opportunity. And plus, Josh Allen is on the cusp of his next contract, his second contract, which is going to be huge. It's going to be insane. And so that means that there's only so much money to go around to all the players with the salary cap. So I was saying it last year, and I'll say it again this year because the contract hasn't been signed and the team is pretty much in place now. But like this is their best opportunity to go for it. You look at the Seahawks, with Russell Wilson early on. Once they gave him his second contract, it was a whole different ball of wax in terms of how they were able to build out that team, especially the defense. The defense took a huge hit because they just couldn't keep all that talent in place. So this is the best opportunity for the Bills right now to win it all.
Yeah, because I've read some articles saying they should sign Josh Allen now, not wait another 12 months.
And I'm no salary expert, but they can certainly sign him now and pay him later. I'm no capologist, but yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where the longer you wait, the higher the price is going to go. The market's going to get reset every time a starting quarterback gets signed in the NFL. I'll be interested to see how the Bills handle this because Josh Allen, at least not even off the field, Josh Allen has become a pillar in the Western New York community here, and so I have to imagine, like, I mean, I would not be surprised. I'm again not a cap expert, not a contract expert, but I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up signing a contract like 10 years, like Patrick Mahomes did, something like that, where it's just something like you're our guy kind of forever, and we'll see, because even if he regresses from where he was in 2020, he's still worlds better than any quarterback they've had since Jim Kelly.
Yeah, and just ask Jerry Jones how it worked out. Every week you just keep putting off signing your quarterback. And in the end, I think, Jerry's boat, we've all seen his boat. I think he took the smaller version because he knew he had to pay Dak in the end. So, all right, so we'll end this off. We're doing a bit of a yin and a yang thing here. So I want a player that you think will rise, but also need a player that you think he might drop off. So we need the good and the bad. We can't have the good stuff all the time. Right?
A player I think will rise. I think Gabriel Davis is, an injury in the receiving room away from becoming a real stud. So I'm not going to say like I hope anybody gets injured or think anybody gets injured, but like I think that his skill set, given the right opportunities, can really flourish in this offense. So let's go that route. Gabriel Davis is my player to rise. Player to descend. That's tough tough for me.
No one's liked answering this question, to be honest. no one wants to put out anybody on the spot on the team.
I know, right? Totally. So a player to descend.
See, if this is the Falcons, I'd probably give you half a dozen.
Well, this is weird for me because normally I've got a bunch of answers for you. Like any other season, I'm like, oh, he's not going to be as good, or he's not.
Coaching staff. Is there someone on the coaching staff that you're not fond of?
No, but I think that maybe somebody. I wish if you guys had given me better. I have a better answer for you if I have a little bit more time to think about it. I mean, maybe. Let me check something real quick. I want to give you an answer. I don't know if you post this for your podcast or you can edit this out, but I have a thought here.
Now we go live now, mate.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah,
no pressure.
No pressure. You know what? I mean, maybe somebody let me check the date on this. Yeah, maybe somebody like Mitch Moore's the center for the Bills, who was a free agent addition a few years ago. He's had some injury history. I think that, and it's tough to grade, like for the layman, like, oh, this offensive lineman isn't doing as well, blah, blah, blah. But like, he's had some injury history. And I think that, that's the center being such an important position on the offensive line. I think that would probably be my player I'd be a little bit concerned about.
Okay. That's it.
Nobody gets offended when you talk about the center.
Everybody's go, who?
No, but he was actually, he was a big free agent signing a couple years ago. But the guy's had some concussion history and everything, and you got to think that he's got to stay safe, when he's playing these games, because concussions are a real deal, and he's had a few.
So you think they might be going out and taking maybe a center and looking at one in next year's draft?
Quite possibly, or another free agent signing, or maybe there's a guy on the roster that is able to slide over from guard or has played center in the past.
Beautiful. I like the Gabriel Davis. That's good.
I think that's the no-brainer. To be honest with you, that's the no-brainer.
Excellent.
Yeah,
excellent.
No, I love that. Del, as always, an absolute pleasure chatting to you. Thank you so much for joining us. And people can follow you at Del Reed. It's on the screen, but for those listening, at Del Reed. And of course, people should go and check out at 26 Shirts. Some of the designs and things you have on there are brilliant. Absolutely.
Do you deliver to Oz?
Yeah. We have a couple. We have one guy in Australia who buys a bunch. We have one guy in New Zealand who buys a bunch.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah, so we're shipping to Joe in New Zealand, several times a year. So it's pretty cool.
Very nice. Very nice.
Have to keep one
out. We ship everywhere. If you've got a mailbox, we'll send it there.
I've got one of those American letterboxes too, where you put the flag up.
Have you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that an American thing? I didn't know. Is that like something that's specific to America?
No, we don't have it. Mate, one thing I enjoy about is like no one uses letters anymore. So the only thing that comes to me, even my bills are coming through the internet now, and on my phone. I don't need to know about it, but I when I travel to America, I like the fact that you take your mail to your own mailbox, you flick the flag up, so the mailman knows that he's got to take something out before he puts something in. That's great.
Yeah. My parents have that. I haven't had that in my
don't have
whole
it?
life. But no, but my parents have a mailbox like that.
But I go, you put the flag, and they got no idea. My mailman's looking at it going, what the? I have no idea what's going on. But the people that put pamphlets, mate, they don't even know how to open the thing because there's no slot. You got to pull the front down and put it in. They look at it and then they just walk off. They don't even try.
No teachable moments, no opportunities there.
So, mate, thanks for coming on, Dells. It's
I always look forward to it. Always look forward to it. Yeah. Always open if you guys want to chat. So hit me up.
Oh, thank you so much. No, we appreciate it heaps. And we look forward to, I mean, not long to go, really. We're almost in August and before we know it'll be NFL season. And we'll enjoy watching those Bills. It's going to be good. Going to be good.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited. So G, welcome to the fanhood.
Yes, I'm on board, mate. I'm on board. I'm going to need some of our windows closed. I need to jump somebody else's. We'll be looking for a new. Maybe we should talk to Josh Allen before they sign him in Buffalo. Give him the Godfather deal.
Yeah, no, I don't think it's happening.
Mate, we still got to pay the stadium off. That's where you guys are saving all your money.
Well, the Falcons don't have a lot of money.
No, we don't have a lot of money. No. Well, Owner has a lot of money. It's just the Falcons don't have a lot of money. Just bought new stadium. What about you guys? Just before you go, new stadium on the cards. Is there anything in the?
Yeah,
there is.
Well, it's not like fully defined, but like the rumblings are really starting to happen now that the Bills are looking into different locations and everything. And actually, the main location looks like they're looking to remain in Orchard Park, where the stadium is now. And there's actually been rumors of like, as they build it, whether it's on the same site where the current stadium is or like next door. I'm not super familiar. That the team might have to play, off site for a couple of seasons while they build that stadium. So we'll see. And nothing's official yet. Nothing's been truly announced. It's been like news reports and stuff. But yeah, it's definitely within the next 10 years, especially probably sooner, they'll be playing on a different field.
Indoors, outdoor.
The rumor has been that it's an overhang, similar to what I think the Dolphins have that overhang, where it's just not full.
Yep.
So,
like a soccer stadium. A lot of soccer stadiums around the world have the overhang.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm getting older, so a lot of fans are pretty vehement about like it has to be outdoors. I'm getting old. Like, do you want to put a roof on that? I wouldn't hate it. but like either way, like I don't hate going to snow games either. But like I'm not like so dyed in the wool that it has to be, outdoors only. So we'll see.
Nice.
Like it. Look forward to it.
All right. Well,
awesome.
We better let you go. Thank you so much. Enjoy your day.
Thanks,
nice sunny day out there. And
good night to you guys.
Yeah, that's right.
Off to bed.
About time for us to hit the sack. But all the best. Thank you so much. And we'll hope to chat again sometime soon.
All right. Sounds good. Take care, guys.
All right, then. See you, bye.
Bye. Go Bills.
Go.
Yeah.
Well,
that was Del.
That's great.
We'll wrap this up. Hope you enjoyed our Bills preview, and definitely check out at 26 Shirts. You see ships to Australia, ships worldwide. And check out at Del Reed. I often sort of see little pics of him at the barbie cooking up.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, I get a lot of the 26 T-shirts stuff come through my phone.
Yeah,
as well.
me too.
Yeah.
All right, anyway, let's wrap this up.
You're a Bills fan, not only a Bills fan. If you're Patriots, I think they do Patriots. They do everybody from that division. I think.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure. So if Bills, Dolphins, Jets, I'm pretty sure they do it all, and the Patriots.
So, all right.
go and put another dollar in his pocket.
Yeah, sounds excellent. It's all for a charity too. So
Yep.
yeah. All right. All the best. Thank you so much for tuning in.
I'm sure there's a brown paper somewhere along the way.
On behalf of G and myself, we will catch you next time. Thank you.